Madden. And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Tuesday, April 16th. We finally have real basketball to talk about. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Eric Lindquist. We are brought to you by Sleeper. We only have 2 games to talk about, but for the first time in a while, there are actual games that we can talk about. There's no Grizzlies on this slate. There's no Pistons, no Wizards. All the trash is gone. And now we can talk about real basketball games, even though these stats exist in the ether, never to be thought of again. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. You excited to talk about basketball for once?
I am. It's been tough sledding. It seems like you and I got handed all these horrific, ridiculous slates. Actually, Rich Green got really handled a lot of ridiculous, absurd slates. Guy manning the projections behind the scenes. It's been tough sledding for a couple of weeks. So it's so relieving to be able to say, oh, I get to like play some of the like just best plays and guys who play lots of minutes and not have to guess and grasp straws on, is Jalen Green a bad boy? Is he going to get benched after, a defensive assignment in a game that doesn't matter? Or what's going to go on? Like, I'm very much looking forward to real, actual, meaningful basketball. I know you are too.
Oh man, I've been waiting for this for a while. It's just been so gross. I really don't enjoy the end of the regular season. I hate talking about it just because it becomes this fool's errand of trying to talk about things that no one knows. We have no idea who's going to play. We have no idea how long people are going to play. Now, very different. Start consolidating those rotations. The best guys are going to be out there. And that's where it starts to get a little crazier when you work your way to the bottom. So we have a ton to talk about. We have more than enough time to break down basically every single guy that's on today's slate. So buckle up. Here we go. Let's talk some basketball. We normally start with the pay-ups. We're going to do the same thing, but pay-up a little bit different today than it normally is. We don't have a single player north of 10K. So I'm going to set the line at De'Aaron Fox. There's a $500 gap between Fox and Zion. So we're going to say Fox, Curry, LeBron, Sabonis, Anthony Davis. What's the best pay up today?
So first off, is our stream good? I'm looking in YouTube chat and everybody's going nuts saying that we're choppy and that nothing's coming through and they can't understand us. Okay. Are we good to talk? Are they going to hear anything we say? Because it looks frozen on my end. No, you're fine. I just wanted to make sure so that we're not just talking between the two of us and that we're actually getting what we're saying across to the people. That seems important.
Oh,
yes, no, maybe so.
Red Lobster's considering Chapter 11.
Are we good now? All right. All right, let's party. Let's try to make it work here then. I think De'Aaron Fox at 8,600 is just kind of a misprice. He's the glaring misprice of this entire slate. Working through everything this morning, it became very clear that De'Aaron Fox is going to be crazy, crazy popular, as he should be. In fact, Sacramento, without Malik Monk, without Kevin Huerter out there, we are going to look at really, really consolidated minutes. And so if I'm looking at anybody 8K up, it is really hard for it not to be De'Aaron Fox here at the top end. I do think what's fascinating to me is the Zion Williamson piece, because 42.8% ownership. And I think what I do with him is going to kind of work with what I do with Ingram, what I do with McCollum. It kind of just feels like one of those spots where I'm not as high on Brandon Ingram playing anywhere close to 30 minutes. And so as such, Zion Williamson at 8,100, nice to get a little bit of that price reduction rate from the get-go there. And at 42.8%, I'm really, really happy to get to him above 8K as well. The 9K range is interesting with the Sabonis, LeBron, Anthony Davis piece, but right now for me, I'm pretty heavily on those 8K guys, 8,600, 8,100, Fox, and Zion. Pretty easy for me to get different and, find the 1v1, 2v2 type pivots I'm looking for, playing, 50 lineups or so. But where are you kind of going on this top end? Because again, Fox feels like the guy that if I'm spending up for anybody, it's going to be him.
Okay, so we're going to be very different But I will say that I don't totally understand why. I think the ownership is what's slowing me down on Fox. I have about half the field, but he does grade out as my 4th overall dude. He's just losing out to the 2 guys that I'm jamming. That's Domantas Sabonis and LeBron James. So we are, and that's what this slate looks like. You could have very different stances on any one of the guys that we mentioned as pay up options. And I'm not going to argue with anybody. I don't think that anybody up there looks bad by any means. There's a reason they're all at least 25% owned. 2-game slate isn't helping. I'm higher on Sabonis than the entire industry today. I'm miles ahead for everybody, and it's showing up in everything that I'm doing. I pulled my rates based on everybody that's available for this sort of playoff rotation. And based on that, I'm heavy. Whether that would be me betting, prop points and rebounds and assist, like I'm over on Sabonis here. Right now, this is going to be a very controversial statement. I have Domantas Sabonis projected for more fantasy points than anybody else.
It's not that crazy. I mean, he's within 2 for me of LeBron.
Yeah, it's him and then LeBron by 0.2 of a point, and then I've got a pretty big gap. I'm also very, very light on Anthony Davis, which, I could take it or leave it there. Do we want to go for the revenge narrative alert of getting him back to New Orleans? How injured is he? Do they just play him 40 minutes today and not care? Do they play him 36 and take it easy? He's the one guy that I'm really not getting to of all of the payups, but it's Sabonis, it's LeBron, then it's Fox for me. I'm happy to get to any Curry. He just sort of exists. He definitely projects the worst of anybody up here. He's also Steph Curry. No bit of that sounds fun. Seems like you'd really like to steal the soul of Sacramento in Sacramento if he could. I like Fox. I wish I were getting to more. I think the 58% ownership is what's putting me off here.
I get the ownership reason for it. For me, it's not that hard to potentially trim it elsewhere. We're going to get to a lot of mid-range options. I think there's good chalk actually with some of the Sacramento guys, but I do kind of think you're right about the AD play. So the AD one, I think is not controversial at all. I think, looking at our projections, we have him half a fantasy point off of LeBron, and that seems about right here. I have Anthony Davis for a little bit lower than we do at the moment, and the main reason is the minutes concern. But what I'm worried about is we get to lock. And a lot of the same reasons that we've been talking about things where, maybe the Lakers just take it easy on him, plays 34, 36 minutes. This isn't a true must win. And if you had the choice, you would want to win the next game if you had that, if you could just pick the run out you wanted. Now, obviously, this is sports. You can't take anything for given. They're going to play it pretty straight up. It is what it is. But I do think Anthony Davis might be a little bit dinged up, and there might be some kind of an ownership discount that we end up getting as a result on him here.
Yeah.
I think he's in a really good spot. Obviously, J-Val might not be long for this basketball game. It might be a lot of 6'9" Larry Nance out there, but Anthony Davis wouldn't shock me if he put up a crazy high score, but I think we're both on the same page right now. Even at like 25, 26% ownership, I'm having a tough time wanting to click on him. So at least we found like that point of continuity. For me, it's just like point guards specifically. CJ McCollum is getting a lot of love, a little bit overowned. I look at point guards like D'Angelo Russell. I don't have a ton of interest in making a stand. Has kind of a positionality thing for me here too, where I like Steph and De'Aaron Fox a lot, and getting to the 2 of them is just kind of like in some of my main builds. I'm getting to a lot more of Fox, but for me, we're kind of doing the same thing. Even if you have them projected like Fox, I think you wouldn't disagree that is the best point per dollar option up here, would you? Or would that be Sabonis?
That's a good question. Let me look. 57.1 divided by 9.6 and 50.4. Pretty close. I have them. I mean, I have this entire range very similar relative to salary. AD, I have very differently, but Sabonis and LeBron look a lot like Fox for me. Just an extra $1,000.
Okay. Well, wanted to just kind of throw that out there where, obviously with that being the case, of course, you're going to go to Sabonis if it's going to be same type of deal and you're projecting them out differently and one's getting drastically more ownership than the other.
LeBron James available to play. Cam Reddish ruled out. So I'm going to have to take that 0 minutes I projected to Cam Reddish and drop that down to still 0.
Perfect.
Um, should we be talking more about Steph? Because he's already 30% owned. I think he very clearly looks like the worst option of anybody that you could pay up for. But at the same time, like, it's also Steph Curry in an elimination game. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit game script dependent, which doesn't really help us now as we're trying to like predict out what median outcome for the minutes are going to be. But like, I do at least want to say that there are ways that if they're down 8-10 early, like there's no way that Chris Paul isn't getting like a first rotation without Steph Curry on a floor. And then whether or not that second one disappears, like issue there. There's also issue of the usage that is going to be distributed. Like Kuminga, if he's on the floor more than what we think, or if he's going to take place of Draymond Green at any point, there's going to be a chance for Kuminga to cut into some of Steph Curry a little bit. It is Steph in an elimination game, though. I'm going to still put him in right around that 38, 40-minute mark, just kind of taking 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, where Chris Paul will come in. And then the closing lineup for me for Golden State, that's the other thing that I keep wanting to bang my head against, figure out exactly how it might go. And it's just going to probably end up game scripted. Who's playing well, what's going on, what's gelling well, are they down? And that's tough to say, but Curry, he's a good option. I wouldn't say the worst, though, in this range. Again, I think there's a huge minutes downside for the initiative of an Anthony Davis here or how healthy he is. And so I do think that, you know, he'll project better, but just from what I'm doing as far as my boot here, I gave a tiny one to Steph to get a little bit more and took a little bit down on Anthony Davis, who does have positive leverage as we have it in the boom bust tool, but just not as high on for it today.
Man, it's so scary because when you start looking at that top section, like you're immediately just crossing off names of dudes that are really good. Like to play, you can't play everybody. As much as I would like to roster AD, Sabonis, LeBron, Curry, and Fox in the same lineup, it doesn't really work out that way. So you're naturally just not on someone. It's not, I don't have any like takes on these dudes. They're all playing games where they desperately want to win. Do I want to fade AD? No. If I had 2x the field of Anthony Davis instead of the 0 that I basically have, that would be fine too. I don't have much of a lean. I just personally think Sabonis looks a little bit better than everybody else does. I'm hoping that ends up being my differentiation point. And it's also possible that Sacramento doesn't play another basketball game this season the moment that it's over. But right now I'm hitching my wagon to Sabonis and LeBron. I would say LeBron's the guy I feel like most comfortable about. He was just absolutely dominant. Whatever day that was that Sunday where he had like 18 assists and absolutely wrecked the Pelicans. I can't remember what day, if it was Friday or Sunday any longer, or Saturday or Sunday. No, there were no games Saturday. So I want to get to LeBron more than anything. Sabonis is sort of just funneling me there positionally. I have one other center that I'm getting to a lot that I'm very curious to see your thoughts on. But if we're just summing up our pay up options right now, Sabonis is at the top for me. LeBron James is number 2. And I can take it or leave it on the rest of the guys in that range. My fade is Anthony Davis. Cool. Solo. We going solo. We going solo, solo. That's me hitting that Jason Derulo. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. Alrighty. All rat hit me with the super chat. He said, who will score more straight up, CJ or Zion? I have Zion by 4 fantasy points. I would imagine the site is in a similar boat. So head to stochastic.com, browse to the player compare tool, which is totally free. Reminder, player compare tool, totally free. You play on DraftKings, you play on FanDuel. You can do 1v1s and 2v2s and get all of the data that we talk about in our boom bust tool. Projections, ownership, optimal rate, boom score, bust score. It'll tell you exactly who to play. That's all you got to do. Is just immediately go to stochastic.com to browse for any type of question like that. So do it. So do it. That's exactly what you guys should be doing. It's very simple. Now, we've just worked our way through the pay-ups for the night. Look who decided to join us again, potentially. You actually want to do the show tonight?
I would love to do the show tonight. It just apparently the internet did not want me to there for that given time in moment. So that was fun.
I do appreciate the internet doing what we would all like you to do, which is just not be a part of this show. But unfortunately, you're back, and you're back for the best part of it, because right now, we might not have a ton of choices today, but we have to do it anyway. It's time for the exotic play of the day. Are we getting real questions in chat? Is Dario Saric not an option? He does well against the Kings. I would imagine he doesn't play a second.
Yep. It would take 4 injuries for him to see the floor, I believe.
I do hope that Steve Kerr knows that Saric is a Kings killer. But he would be a potential exotic option for today. The list is thin. Who's your exotic play of the day?
Oh, it's a very thin list, but at the same time, I think it's got a clear-cut winner to it. Mr. Austin Reeves, welcome to the program. Nice to see him in the montage, too. Kind of sets it up in a very nice, enjoyable experience. But what is his current ownership here? Because I was working through it earlier, and there is major positive leverage. No, he does not project out all that well, but we're talking about a sub 10% piece who should be on the floor a lot, who's 16% optimal. That's pretty hard to pass up on a 2-game slate. So Austin Reeves, my you-know-what of the night.
Man, I'm trying to figure out who mine. I'm running out of options. How many do we have here?
Like 4. And one of them's Dario Saric.
Yeah. Whale, working my way down that list. Austin Reeves is already not able to be selected. We're going to the top. There's only one option for me here. It's the guy that I have the absolute most of anybody on today's slate. There is only one answer to this question. And the question is, who's the white of the night? Domantas Sabonis. Has to be. No choices. He's in 78% of my lineups. That's no other choice. You guys all know how much I like Domantas Sabonis. It's just a given. I know I'm such a Sabonis homer on this show. Today is going to be no different. Sabonis is the white of the night. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's really fun? Using our tools. And the big thing that we could do today is use the promo code playoffs. Get a nice discount on a weekly Sims package. So nice, it's 50% off. That's all you got to do. Click the link that pops up in the chat or the one that is in the description of this video. You will get 50% off a week of our Sims Max package. Basketball's going nowhere. We've got today's slate along with all of the Showdown contests that exist. We're back tomorrow. We'll have games on Friday, and then we get into the real first round coming up throughout the weekend. You don't want to miss any of this. You should sign up right now. This deal's not going to last forever, but we wanted you guys to get back into the swing of NBA. This past 2 weeks have been kind of rough. I understand how people don't want to play NBA DFS when you have to play all the made-up players on some of those garbage teams. That's all gone now. We've got real basketball to watch, real basketball to sweat, and you can do that by saving 50% off on the Stochastic Sims Max package by using the promo code playoffs.
That was lovely.
All right.
Glad I tuned in for that.
It's good. So good. Now, let's talk some GPP plays. Who are the guys that you want to get to today that are going to be your differentiators in your lineup?
Yeah, so the Austin Reeves one kind of gave that out there just a second ago, but Trey Murphy, this is the next guy, 6K. I'm talking about the Ingram minutes, how you move the sliders in the minutes, especially come playoff time or play-in time in this event. It's really going to dictate what you want to do with other pieces in your lineups, who's going to benefit. I'm of the mind that we aren't going to see as much Brandon Ingram as what other people might have been projecting. I saw some ridiculousness on Twitter where somebody was going 34, 36 minutes or something. I'm like, what are you even talking about? 30 would be like tops for me unless they were really putting the kitty gloves on him in a spot that the New Orleans Pelicans really wanted to win on Sunday. So I find it hard to extend him beyond 30 minutes in a lot of capacities. And as such, I think the main beneficiary ends up being a Trey Murphy, who at 6K, is he a little bit overpriced? Sure, but it's a 2-game slate. There's positive leverage coming in here. And his whole goal, like he's out there to knock down shots. So there's definitely a path to upside and usage there with him. So shooting guard, small forward doesn't hurt my feelings either. So Trey Murphy, that's one of the guys where if I'm going to be lower on him, how do I basically capture that upside elsewhere? Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones is already popular at 5,100, but definitely like him too.
I got a couple guys that I'm taking some decent stands on. Now I know you're not a Brandon Ingram guy today. I get it. I am a Brandon Ingram guy today only because of his ownership.
Got it.
This is a spot I'm willing to take on a 2-gamer. If we just find out that, look, he didn't look great. I'm not confident that he's healthy. The spot absolutely scares me. If he's really 6% owned, I'm intrigued by that on what this slate is. Plenty of bust potential. There's a lot of downside risk here. I'm willing to try to squeeze out a little bit of the upside given the ownership. Like if he were 15% owned, then I don't think that he even becomes any sort of talking point. He's a lot easier to ignore. If he's going to be sub 10%, it's a spot that I'm willing to take a shot. I have no problem getting to Trey Murphy either. I'm also over the field there. So I'm kind of taking a one or the other situation for the two of those guys. But we didn't get to the guy that I think is the most puzzling today. And the guy that makes, to me, well, I think we have two of them that are puzzling me. One a little bit more than the other. I'm going to go to the guy that is essentially unowned. And I want to try to talk through this. Why is Jonathan Kuminga projected for 3% ownership today?
I don't know. That would be the other one that I was going to throw out there for him. Because he played bad last game, Josh, because he was bad last game and they ended up benching him. I don't know if you saw, he played 24 minutes last game, but also it was one game and he didn't shoot the ball particularly well. And he's going to still play 24, 26 minutes at an absolute floor, 30, 32, maybe even a little bit more if he really gets it going on the high side. I don't know. It feels like too good to be true. I do think we'll get to lock and probably see a little bit more ownership come in, but there's no doubt that based on what his role's been with this team throughout the season, where he was starting, he had a 25 plus, 20 plus point games on his own omission. Like there's no doubt that he's overpriced relative to having Chris Paul back, to having a healthy Steph Curry out there and everybody else. Just there's definitely a downside to it, but at 3%, there's only upside when you're taking on a player of Jonathan Kuminga's skill level who can get you a bucket. And if he gets it going against Sacramento, there's not really a whole lot of resistance in that front court.
Yeah, I went 27 minutes. I don't really understand his ownership. Even if he's 6 or 7 or 8, like I think that it's way too low. I think there's a real upside of 30 minutes today, just like he had been playing prior to his injury. The 4 games prior to missing that 6-game stretch, 28, 30, 30, 32. He came back, played 27, only played 21 in the game after that. They kind of spread their rotation out. Nobody played more than 33. He played 34 with some guys missing, missed another game, and then no one really played in their final game. Everybody played 22 minutes. 27 feels like a floor to me for Kuminga, and my anticipation is he's playing around 30, especially if they're going to continue to consolidate this rotation. So I think he looks like the best possible GPP play that you can get to given the current ownership. But someone like Brandon Ingram is also in that discussion for me. I like the Austin Reeves shout. I'm 2x the field on Reeves right now. But we need to have a conversation about a guy that's pulling a lot of ownership, but I think is still under-owned. And I think he might actually be the biggest wild card on today's slate. What should we be doing with Larry Nance?
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going to go with that.
So he's projected for 35% ownership right now. Best I can tell, there's not a single prop anywhere to be found on Nance. They have established that they don't really like playing Joval all that much. 2 out of the last 3 games that we've had out of Nance have gotten him to 30 minutes. This feels like a spot where he's at least playing like 26, if not more. Like, isn't this the exact matchup you're looking to have him for? Like, if you're not putting him out here now, they don't have centers on the team any longer. This is like we're just establishing Zion at the 5.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one, too. I mean, I brought it up earlier where Larry Nance, 6'9", not exactly the biggest, strongest dude to be going up against. Anthony Davis, much, much larger. JVL being a 7-footer, but so flat-footed and incapable of playing defense. 7th and 6th percentile defender in plus minus the last 2 seasons. But I am with you where Larry Nance is somebody that I was interested in. I will say I didn't exactly look at him as a jam spot. I feel like I played Larry Nance the last 2 months and never got paid off for it at any point in time at like 1 and 2% ownership. And now we're on a 2-gamer where he's pulling 35, 36% ownership, and I actually need him to go out and play. I think that what's more interesting to me is like what the talking point is for Golden State and like players in the range, like 4,200. It's pretty close to like a Keon Ellis, Davion Mitchell. Like we need to still find 2 or 3 of these guys. And then Harrison Barnes, I think we're all pretty much seeing why he's pulling the kind of ownership he is. When I say good chalk from Sacramento, I just mean that it is so hard for me to step away from that kind of a price tag for 35-ish minutes. I think it's just so difficult to pass up on this slate specifically. And there's no doubt Larry Nance has that kind of upside, but his boom percentage is so damn low. The upside, his usage is non-existent when you have him out on the floor. But if you're going to have J-Val play 1 rotation, which is very live, 5-6 minutes, they're going to have to either go to some small ball 5 deal. Anthony Davis, if he's going to play less, as we were talking about potentially too, they can have Jackson Hayes out there and you can put anybody out on Jackson Hayes. That's not a big deal. But Larry Nance, I hadn't really thought about him being the key piece where he's underowned relative to what you have as optimal. There is positive leverage. You're going to run into more 4, 5, 6% positive leverage players on these 2-game slates. You always do. And so if that's the guy you want to be making your stand with, I have no problem with it. I currently have 30%, so I wasn't really doing a whole hell of a lot with him. I do have him in for 28 minutes though. So I guess that's something I should definitely be taking a look at.
Yeah, I mean, we have him in for 25, and we also have him 40% optimal, 35% owned.
It's wild.
I tend to think 20. Point. I don't have a great feel on the minutes. Obviously, these guys are all over the place. I think, like, even if he doesn't get to the 30 that he had that last time out and he gets to 27 or 28, what does that make his optimal? 50?
Yeah. I love the point you're making. Again, you don't have to sell me too hard on Larry Nance because, again, I was throwing money away on him trying to capture the Larry Nance starts in the second half tweet that we all get every single day, it would appear, and nobody ever reacted to the next day for, any kind of a GPP play. I'm going to take another look at this and kind of rerun some stuff because I do think you're making great points where that should be somebody we should be taking a larger stand on.
Yeah, like if you're not a Nance guy today, you kind of have to be a Zion guy today, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I am. So yeah, I'm hoping he plays more at the 5.
Like I can see that path. If Nance plays 20 minutes and we all expect Joval to play, I don't know, 10, 12, whatever, then it's going to be a lot of Zion at the 5, and they're going to be spreading this floor out and hoping that they can get to the rim. The problem is when he gets to the rim, he's got to meet AD. And I don't think that's going to be a very fun journey for someone like Zion, who isn't the best finisher, as weird as that sounds.
No.
So that's where it starts to become this like 3D chess thing where you start working your way back down of, well, if you don't think Nance is getting those minutes, then you're shifting everybody up a position and you're sliding people around. Do you like any more of the wings than from the Pels in that scenario?
Yeah.
Like, do you keep your eye on Alvarado or Dyson Daniels as like real big flyers?
Yeah. So Dyson Daniels is at least somewhat of like a deep flyer. I do think you have to project him for a couple of minutes. I would be shocked if we get to the second quarter. And don't forget also, this is a game that this isn't a must win. Like this is not an absolute put everybody up, pedal to the metal, the way that Golden State Sacramento should be played. I think Golden State has to kind of experiment with rotations if things don't work out well early, if they're not in a groove. Moses Moody doesn't have to see the floor beyond 1 rotation if he's not knocking down shots, or if Chris Paul comes out and solidifies minutes, or if Trace Jackson Davis, God forbid, ends up smashing in some capacity. I am definitely of the mind that this is a game where you can try to pick Jackson Hayes if you really want to, Jose Alvarado if you really want to, and Dyson Daniels, I think, goes into that bucket for me as well, where, sure, 2 rotations, there are ways that can pan out for you. It's not nearly as fun as rostering Larry Nance, who has a very, very prominent minutes upside, but I am higher on, I already said it before, Trey Murphy, higher on getting to more Herb Jones. Those are 2 guys I have a lot of. They fit in the construction of what that lineup looks like with Zion at the 5. But for the most part, Larry Nance was always kind of the guy that I was thinking was going to play more of the 5. It's just weird that I basically had 7 minutes in for J-Val and just wasn't jamming Larry Nance. So that was kind of a good shout out by you there. But for me, it's more of just kind of mixing and matching number of those wings, and not really worried about getting too deep down the bench. Like Jackson Hayes, I brought him up. I project him for a couple minutes, but I don't think he's going to be somebody who's like making his way into lineups at all.
No, I think Jackson Hayes is very live to not play a second today.
Yep, very much so.
If you think that Anthony Davis can play 40, I would not be surprised at all to see LeBron James play the other 8 at the 5.
Yep.
So he's really off the Jackson Hayes is off the table for me. Joe Val's off the table for me. Those are 2 guys that in this game I'm just not looking at all. Anybody else that you are taking a pretty big stand over? I've got a lot of Herb Jones. I don't really have much to add there. I think it's just position and price and minutes that are really making that happen. But I think I've touched on everybody that I think is like a GPP flyer.
What are you doing with Brandon Pajemski? I think this is the other guy where I feel like there's ways for him, just the rebounding, the all-around game, where if Clay doesn't have it, if Wiggins doesn't have it right from the get-go too, like there's paths for Pajemski to see the floor a little bit more. I'm not saying it's likely by any means, but how many minutes are you projecting him for? Because he's one of those guys that I think ends up 5-6%. I mean, that's kind of what he's been all day long here. We've got him at 4.8% ownership, 11.4% optimal. Again, a 1 in 10 chance to be optimal doesn't sound all that great, but then you remember it's a 2-game slate. You got to get different with something more than likely. And he's 4,700, so not all that much more expensive than a Keon Ellis or a Harrison Barnes. And there's definitely, I wouldn't say like definitely an upside, but there's an upside and a path I can see there for just about any bench player to play themselves into the closing lineup.
Before I touch on Pajemski, who I have a little of, but nothing crazy, we got both starting lineups while you were talking. There, it's exactly the starting lineups you would expect. Same starting lineups that you always get for both teams. I have 8% of him. I went 21 minutes. I have no confidence in what they're doing with him, but they really do seem to have walked him back this past month or so in any situation where they could. I mean, they had wholesale dudes out for a 3-week stretch, but they didn't really juice him all that much. He only got north of 30 minutes 3 times. A lot of this time it was happening in this like 22, 23 minute range. But that said, he gets to 23 or 24, and I think he probably looks a little bit sneakier than what the ownership is showing. He's going to be around a 0.85 guy in this spot. Probably, I mean, I think the boom bust tool is telling a really good tale. 11% optimal, 5% owned, probably a little sneakier than he should be.
Okay. Yeah, it's just somebody that, as you're working through it, felt like, for me, Golden State figuring out this closing rotation, somebody's going to win a tournament tonight if you pin that down. I think the most likely scenario is that they play Draymond at the 5 and they bring Chris Paul on the floor to close. Wiggins and Kuminga, I think it could go either way, but more than likely it's Wiggins out there closing. If you can kind of pin down what that ends up being, you're going to win some money here. I don't think Pajemski is completely out of the realm of being somebody to close, but working through the most likely guy, Chris Paul is definitely it, but Chris Paul getting at least some attention his direction at 5,200, whereas nobody is going Pajemski's way.
My prediction for the most likely closing lineup for the Warriors is Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond. But there are, they're not like the front runners. They're not like the Boston in the East of this situation. I think it's pretty compact.
That's probably 1A, 1B. I mean, Chris Paul sharing the floor, he's been doing it a little bit more. Steph, Clay, they've taken Kuminga off the floor at times there for it. I think that's why Kuminga is getting this crazy stark ownership discount on him that shouldn't exist. So we're in the same boat there.
All righty. We've worked our way through our personal favorite GPP plays, but we also need to figure out who is the kaboom nuke of the night. Probably got to start running some shit in like the next 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, that seems important. Good to know I didn't take out Kansas City and the White Sox and it got postponed, and I just uploaded my baseball lineups and it looks like shit.
There you go.
Good job.
Nailed it.
Well, I mean, I closed my laptop, so I'm not getting notifications. That's good.
You should notify the people who the nuke of the night is.
I will do that right now. I've been saving this one. So basically, my big stand on today is going to be trimming a lot of Trace Jackson Davis, and I got to replace it with something. And I think the most likely outcome, barring foul trouble or getting ejected or him yelling or doing something, this nucleus has been together forever. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and your nuke of the night, Draymond Green. Nobody wants to click on Draymond Green today. He has been the problem child here. He's 6,400 power forward center, but I just look at what the minutes upside could be for guys relative to what we have projected, what's projected around the industry. And if you were to tell me that in a must-win game that Golden State just played Steph and Draymond Green 40 plus minutes, I would not be shocked in the slightest. And Steph's already kind of getting that appropriate, that appropriate number to him. Draymond Green fills up a box score, and I just need him on the floor a lot and more than what he's normally been. Do I think that he probably gets subbed out in that second quarter? Absolutely. Do I think that they have to sub him out if it's a competitive game or if he just wants to stay in there in the third quarter? No, I don't. And that's where I do think if you were to just look at the box score after the fact and see Draymond Green, 40, 42 minutes, of course, they need him out there defensively. They want him out there. It's their go-to guy here with Steph, Klay. They've had this nucleus together forever, and he's got positive leverage. And as soon as I saw that, there was an opportunity for me to jam a very unlikely candidate for me at Nuke of the Night, Draymond Green.
I'm going to hitch my wagon to the guy that I think could play 30 minutes today, even though no one seems to think it's going to happen. We have no idea what the prop market looks like, and I don't care. He's 35% owned. I have twice as much right now. The Nuke of the Night is Larry Nance.
Rimpack just said he has 100% of him, so that's probably a good idea.
Wait, really? Chat?
Yep.
Discord?
No, to me, my existence, because I got a direct line to the GOAT. I like it.
Larry Nance,
what he thought about
it. Kaboom. You shouldn't sleep on Larry Nance or on our sponsor, which is Sleeper. You can get up to $500 on your first deposit by clicking the link in chat or the one that shows up in the description of this video. First and foremost, I tell you every night, I'm not changing it today. Take advantage of these deposit bonuses. It's the easiest way for you to get more money, and that's all we want to do here. That's why we play DFS. That's why we bet. That's why we're on the pick'em sites. We want more money. This is the easiest way to get it. So take advantage of the deposit bonus. Play through it. If you find out you hate it, bail. Go somewhere else if you want. Or you find out you love it because you've been smashing it. You could also use Odds Shopper in association with Sleeper and the other pick'em sites or on sportsbooks. Give yourself additional plays because we take a market-based approach to beating the books, and it's updating nonstop throughout the day. Sleeper's got dynamic payouts, so you can get multipliers on each one of your plays that can get you up to 100x payouts. It's a lot of money to go around at Sleeper, and Odds Shopper can help you get there. But to sign up, all you got to do is click the link in chat or the one in the description. Highly recommended, guys. Take advantage of that deposit offer. Let's talk fades. That's where we're at now. Who are some of the guys that you are getting away from in a mildly aggressive manner?
Anthony Davis was the first one that we brought up on the top end here, but the other one for me is Davion Mitchell. I don't think Davion Mitchell, I said there's options. We have the Keon Ellis piece. We have a lot of these other guys. Davion Mitchell, his calling card coming out of college was that he was going to be this defense first, massive lockdown guy. And that has not really come to fruition here. And as such, not a great open shooter, 3,700 for him. I get why the field's getting there, but for me, you look at the top of the table, the boom percentage for him and Trey Lyles, both of them. I've kind of been a Trey Lyles guy at times throughout the season. I can't really take him past 16 minutes today. And it would seem that people want to take a lot of shots on him. And Trey Lyles is somebody that, can get out and make a meaningful first rotation, knock down a couple threes and you're set. But for me, these sub 4K guys are just not really that appealing. When we can go a little bit more expensive, you don't have any 10K guys to be paying up for on this slate. It's really about building more balanced for me here. So not really dropping down to the Davion Mitchell and Trey Lyles pieces. They don't have to do as much for you. But again, I've just boosted Larry Nance. I'm going to get to a lot of Larry Nance here now after talking with Josh through that. I know the boom percentage doesn't look that much better, but the minute certainty for him is just so much higher than what I feel for those two bench pieces from Sacramento. And if I'm going to be playing the chalk of Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes and not really thinking twice about it, I should probably be lower on that bench.
I don't have much to add there. I'm mostly in agreement with you. I'm a little bit, I don't want to say that I'm personally higher on Davion Mitchell. I just happen to have a little bit more. The Trey Lyles piece is the one that scares me because I think they're live to not play Alex Len today. And if Trey Lyles can get 8 minutes, sort of the reverse of the Lakers side. Like if Trey Lyles can get the backup, just all of the backup center run to Sabonis and play alongside of him, then it just sort of comes down to, is he playing better than Mitchell and or Keon Ellis? Can they move these guys around in a way to free up some extra playing time? And I certainly think that it's possible in a 3,800. I'm fine. I'm basically neutral on Lyles. The guys that I'm fading the most, unfortunately for me, the Barnacle of the Bay, but I have 32%. So it's not like I just don't have him. I just don't have the 66% that everybody else does. The biggest fade that I have, and we already touched on Anthony Davis, is actually Klay Thompson. He projected for 39% ownership on the last run that I saw. As of this moment, I have 10%. Could Klay go out there and shoot the lights out in Sacramento? Absolutely. But if he doesn't, I'm not going to feel bad about not having him. And I think that I can handle that right now. So it looks like Klay is going to be the guy that I am most under the field on in terms of like not even getting there too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't mind that. What was going on with his points prop? Did you, I felt like I was taking crazy pills. 20.5. Was that legitimately the number that I saw earlier today? I felt like I was in a dream for a second. And then when I went back to look, it was gone at the moment. Let me pull up where he's at.
I have 19.5. So I don't think that that's crazy.
Yeah, I saw 20.5 and it just seemed like a gigantic number as I was plugging and playing. I haven't built out stuff in quite a while, like my own stuff in probably 2 weeks or so. Spoiler alert, good times. But Klay Thompson, he was kind of the one that I was dragging, pulling, and I was a little bit surprised to see the number come across the screen. I don't hate that, but it did at 20.5 kind of push me to being more neutral on him. So I totally see where you're getting at. The Sims had me get around 50% of him in my first run, and then he's kind of been lingering in that 30-40 range the entire rest of the day. So don't hate that. Mentally, I thought of it as a fade because that was something I was thinking about this morning, but when I actually ran it, I got more neutral to him.
Jordan, do me a favor, pull up the FanDuel player compare tool. That is where we stand right now and what we need to take a look at. Darren Unger hit us with the super chat. CJ and Sabonis or Fox and Zion on FanDuel? We're going to find out what exactly the player compare tool thinks. I don't know if you're doing that or not right now, Joe. Okay, there it is. I appreciate you. All right, it's CJ McCollum and Domantas Sabonis. And make sure you switch that to FanDuel, by the way.
FanDizzy.
CJ and the Boner. Sounds like a band.
Real good band.
And then
what we were talking about.
De'Aaron Fox or Zion. What do we got here, folks? Oops, that's me screwing up the screen so I can't see it. There we go. All right, scroll down a little bit. Looks like 59% head-to-head Fox and Williamson over Sabonis and McCollum. Much higher optimal rate on the first two groups. Sabonis is what's bringing it down there because he's center only. It naturally just comes down a bit. You're also getting that discount on his ownership. Obviously, things are a little bit different on FanDuel where you only get one center, but the player compare tool is right there for you guys. Don't be afraid to pull it up. It is free. Just go to stochastic.com and browse to the player compare tool, and you could do the exact same thing that we just did. All right, we have 12 minutes to go until we get to lock. It is time to talk about the Amber Heard play of the day. Is there someone out there that is likely to leave a steaming pile of corn-filled poo on your duvet?
Oh, man. Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes. There's just so much of them. They're crazy high popular. They're crazy high owned. They should be. I can't get away from playing tons of them. And So if anything happens to one or the other, I will be in absolute shambles. I am an absolute chalk donkey, the likes of this world has never seen before. So
Yes.
those two, if they end up dying, I will die too, or just get shit on. There you go. Amber Heard plays of the night, plural.
Donkey.
Oh,
That's
dude,
okay.
donkey. I love it.
Donkey. I got to work on that one.
Yeah,
It's
Shrek.
Anthony Davis for me, for
Okay.
sure. I mean, we're talking about an all NBA guy that I'm just like, you know who I don't need on a 2-gamer? Anthony Davis. It's not fun. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not just going to play the entire field like with the field, but no part of me is ever comfortable fading Anthony Davis, especially as weird as it sounds, when he has power forward eligibility and he's like easier to get to, and I still don't get there. He's going to go out there and not be hurt, play 40 minutes, and just smack around this Pelicans team that wishes they still had him.
Yep. That is, I mean, just him and Trace Jackson Davis, just light them up as optimal. How much Anthony Davis did I end up with? That is a good question. I ended up with 2 shares. So there you go, out of 50. 4%, that'll go well for us. Trace Jackson Davis, I have 0 of. So that'll go well for us. Go team.
Our boy, Ace of Spades, looking for tiers options.
Is there tiers today?
Unfortunately, there are. AD, Domantas Sabonis, and LeBron James.
I mean, LeBron James.
It's Sabonis for me, but
oh my lord,
LeBron is definitely going to be the highest owned guy in that range for sure.
Yeah.
We go to tier 2. Fox, Curry, Williamson, and CJ McCollum.
Fox.
Yeah, that's gonna be Fox as well for me. DFS is a little bit different than tiers contest. Ingram, Russell, Reeves, Draymond, and Clay.
Let's see. Draymond.
You see what I have here. Ingram, Russell, Reeves, Draymond, Clay. That is going to be Brandon Ingram for me, but obviously there's a little bit of additional risk there if you don't want to take it. The error bars on that one are huge. Keegan Murray, Trey Murphy, Kuminga, Paul, Hachimura, Trace Jackson Davis.
Keegan Murray.
Yeah, Murray by a mile too for me.
Yep.
Same. Joval, Pajemski, Herb, Wiggins, Dinwiddie, Barnes, and Keon Ellis.
Got it as Herb Jones.
I've got Andrew Wiggins in that range.
Okay.
I've got Herb Jones in that range.
There you go, you lying sack of you know what.
And finally, tier 6, Dyson Daniels, Torian Prince, Larry Nance, Lyles, Alvarado, Moody, Mitchell, and Hayes.
I gotta go Larry Nance now. Let's go, team. That's
I don't know how you take somebody else there.
Yeah, this is the Larry Nance program now. Let's take the guy who's going to play 28 minutes or 26 minutes over what?
I hope he plays that much.
Yeah, me too. Again, 25, you're probably right there. I had him for 28 the whole day. So, God forbid. If JVal absolutely smashes in the first 2-3 minutes of this game, I'm pretty sure we're all going to just set the world on fire.
Oh my God. You know, it's going to happen too, especially after that stink bomb he left out last time out. I'm massaging my exposures right now to see where I actually end up. I like it so far, that's for sure. But the amount of Sabonis and Larry Nance that I have is at least a little concerning.
Yeah, it should be. Bit. It should feel a little. You should feel a little ridiculous. I will say, the $18 is $100K to first tonight over on DK. Just notice that. That seems like something you might want to join, people.
It's a $20, I believe, but either way,
18.
The main contest?
Yeah, $18. The Showdown.
On DraftKings.
Yeah.
Showdown. Showdown.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Showdown.
Gotcha. I misheard you. Because I was going to say, I'm pretty sure the main contest was...
No, it is.
20.
But I'm saying the Showdown, $100K to first. Normally, we have a Showdown question by now when there's that big of a pool and we've covered like the entire main slate. And it's like, well, how do we apply that to the Showdown stuff? Because I do think in the must win, like this is a you win or you're gone kind of game, there's some real fun strategy, I think, with some of these tournaments early in the season before it gets a little bit more efficient as rotations get known. I really like Showdown in this spot.
Ooh, I'm a little nervous about the amount of Trey Lyles I have right now, but it's going to have
Oh
to be
no.
okay.
Well, you can always move it around later too. I'm not
Oh yeah, I
terribly
mean
concerned about my evening exposures.
late swapping's a no-brainer before the final game because if you have a lineup that's dead, you have no real reason to not kind of zig a little bit in there if you want to try to take a shot
Mhm.
or vice versa. Um, do I want Keegan Murray to be my most exposed guy? Because I feel like that dude is going to fail, but there's nothing I could
I
really do
have
about it.
92% of him, so
He's
there
my
you
most
go.
exposed guy right now. Him, I
So you
have an
ended up getting more
overwhelming
of him
amount of
than
Larry Nance.
Sabonis. You got more of him than Sabonis.
I do by
Okay.
8% right now.
Okay. You
So
had
I have, I'm
78%
in.
Sabonis.
Whatever I have right now, I'm just going to go with because
Yep,
otherwise I'm just going to be tweaking things just to tweak them. Do you have your exposures?
I do.
All right. Well, let's talk through exactly what we're getting to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who are your, I don't know, top couple guys? Find the spot where like there's clearly a line in the sand.
92% Keegan Murray, 84% De'Aaron Fox, 74% Harrison Barnes, 62% Keon Ellis. I'm just jamming everything Sacramento right now.
Yeah, 70 Murray, 66 Nance, 64 Herb, 62 Sabonis, 58 LeBron. That's kind of where like my line in the sand is drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I only have 18% Kaminga. I am going to give him a slight bump. I'd like more. He's
Mm-hmm.
just the guy that I have the best feel about. Like, he's the guy that I think is most likely to win me a contest today. And I would rather take a shot to get a little bit more than look back at it and be like, you stupid asshole, you knew it all day.
Yeah. So I used some of the max exposure caps. We have that over in the Sims tool. I think on a 2-gamer where you're trying to make educated stands, it's something I'm going to use a little bit more than I did for like a 8-game, 10-game, 12-game regular season NBA DFS slate. So don't sleep on the exposure caps. If you know that somebody's going to be popular or you want to get to a certain guy a little bit more, there's things you can do, but not just the ROI boost to get more of them. I put an exposure cap where I'm just going to go 50-50 Sabonis and LeBron and move on with my life.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with everything else that I'm getting here. I have a light amount of Pajemski. I kind of want to just bump him and get a
Mm-hmm.
little tiny bit more at the expense of others, just from a value perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dialing it in now. We're dialing it in. Little boosts one way or the other. We've got
Yeah.
4 minutes to go to get your lineups in before we kick off the play-in tournament. I'm excited. Who wins?
I think Golden State beat Sacramento. I don't want to lay 2.5 to find out. So there's that. And then this Lakers New Orleans one is like truly impossible for me to pick. The Lakers are more talented. They won the Western Conference last season. They have 2 of the best 10 players in the NBA still in LeBron and Anthony Davis. But that being said, in New Orleans put up the stink bomb Sunday. Brandon Ingram couldn't have played worse. A lot of those guys couldn't have played worse. And I do think there's more incentive for them to go out and absolutely do everything they can to win this game. Whereas the Lakers, if they coast, knowing that they would then not have to play Jokic and company first round, I think that would be a nice consolation prize and a reason for them to go back into LA. So I'll go New Orleans in the first game.
Well, I hope you're right because I'm over the field on New Orleans. I hope that Herb Jones, Larry Nance, Trey Murphy, and Brandon Ingram have a lot to do with it. Basically, I'm light on CJ. I'm light on Zion. 20, in the 20s for both of them. So it's not, I'm not dead if it goes that direction, but I'm looking at more of their value pieces and I'm hoping that Brandon Ingram just, I don't know, got all of the Mexican supplements and flew to Germany over the weekend to get whatever sort of injections that he can get. I want all of that kind of stuff.
Because why not? Because why not?
I think the Lakers win. I have a hard time ever picking against LeBron James in a situation like this. Here's a real, this is a legitimate question for you. It has nothing to do with today's slate.
Okay.
I think we'd be on the same page saying that if you were having a draft to play one game today, the first pick would be Jokic. Would you agree there? Or would you have a different, okay.
Nope.
Okay. Who's second?
Ooh. Well, today, not Giannis because he's dead.
You can include anybody that's hurt. Okay. Treat everybody like they're healthy.
So you're gonna put LeBron in the 2 spot. I don't hate it because
not necessarily, but I'm willing to have the conversation.
Okay. I probably would go to win one game today. I think about this like US Olympics, gold medal. Who do I want to have taking the floor for me first? Jokic is definitely one. God. That is such a hard number two. There's a part of me that's like in one game to go out and do it. Luka Doncic gets slept on in so many of these type conversations, and like he's not just ball dominant, knock down every shot. He's a tall guard and does everything on a floor. I'm almost inclined to say Luka too, but LeBron I do not mind whatsoever.
I think the answer is Embiid if you know that he's 100% healthy.
That probably is true.
But you don't think about it in that same way. I honestly think that I might take LeBron before I took anybody else. Because it's one game. You get every bit of him to the nth degree with the experience, the connection factor, the ability to be significantly better on defense in your best option than a Luka Doncic. I honestly think that if you only had to play one game, you go to LeBron so much faster than you go to other guys.
It's a really good point. Hadn't thought about it that way. I do think there's obviously merit to getting to the greatest player